Amazing. How are you?
Dude, I'm good, man. Just chilling in my car outside work. Is the buzz from my car too loud?
It's perfect, dude. It's great. It's okay. Yeah, how are you, man?
Dude, I'm doing good. Been a busy week. Just
Mm-hmm.
working on finishing up my course and just working. I work in a treatment center, so I just stepped outside for like an hour.
Love
So
it, man. I'm very excited to make this happen. I've been following you for a while, and your style of content on Instagram, especially, is really special. How you move your message, and your writing style on Twitter is beautiful as well.
I
um, so I got attracted to you, and I really wanted to get you on the show. I love what you share. It really resonates with me. Um, yeah, welcome to the show.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. Stoked to do it.
So let's dig into this, man. Give me a little bit about your story. What got you what got you to where you are today?
Yeah,
As much as you want to share, by the way, as much as you're comfortable sharing.
yeah. I mean, I'm comfortable sharing anything really. Yeah. So I mean, as far as like I guess I'll talk about specific to the Instagram. I haven't spent that much time focusing on trying to grow my Twitter, but specific to like the Instagram, the message that I'm working on building there, and how I got there. So um, yeah, I was raised by my mom and my grandma. So my dad left when I was pretty young. I'm from Utah, I'm LDS. I was raised LDS. I'm still active, very Christian. But anyway, yes, I was raised by my mom and my grandma. Didn't really know any different as a kid. I was raised pretty unhealthy. Had like church leaders and uncles that were kind of father figures, but it was really just me and my brother, and my mom for most of my childhood. Didn't have a ton of money. I grew up pretty unhealthy, so um, like we ate McDonald's every day, and like my grandma would cook us meals, dinners sometimes, but if she didn't cook, then that meant that we ate out. My mom would, um, yeah, we'd go get some fast food. And bless her heart, I love her and don't uh, don't feel any bitterness. But that was just how my childhood was. We ate trash food, didn't really take care of ourselves. So I kind of grew up that way. I also played sports like with my cousins. Um, so like I was outside, I was moving a lot as a kid. As I got older, they started competing like kind of more competitively. I never did like the competitive stuff really, and that's when I became like I still played some, but that's when I started getting like chubbier,
Mm,
um, and I started digging a lot into reading. So like when I was a kid, I was like an obsessive reader. Like
mm-hmm.
I think my max day I read like 6 books in a day. They were Animorphs, so they were only like 300 pages, but it was like I was like 11, bro. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Um, so as I got older, watched a lot of TV, whatever. Um, and so that was kind of the story. I've always been a musician. I've always sung since I was young. So that's kind of how I spent my childhood. Once I got into high school, it was the same story. I was like pretty overweight. In my sophomore year of high school, I wrestled for a year and dropped like 30, 35 pounds.
Okay.
Just went into psycho mode for like the season. I had never experienced that before.
Mm-hmm.
And there's kind of like a snap in me, but then I got a job at KFC after, and worked there for a year and a half. Ate a lot of trash and got really fat again. By the time I finished high school, I was like horribly lactose intolerant. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought, and I was like almost 200. I served a church mission in the Philippines. So there's like the training center you go to for like a month or two before. So by the time I left there, I was over 200. Um, just packing on the pounds, and like mind you, I played sports, but like when I wrestled, I weightlifted a couple times, but like I hadn't really, I had never, I was soft. I was so soft, dude. And like I wasn't a bad guy, but I was real soft. And then there were like other things that like all the same things that I've talked about, that I'm not going into detail of, but like I had some struggles with porn. especially my teenage years. And so just the teenage years were pretty wild. I had a lot of things going on with my family as well. That was just really chaotic. So that was kind of a crucible time. But anyway, so I went to the Philippines. Went there, kind of really came to God. There was a moment, I call it like my snap. I've only recently realized that some people don't have this, but this is like, it's like a deciding moment in my life. I remember the room that I was in. I was with my mission president and his wife, who they're like the leaders of the area you're in, and they were talking about exercise, and they were like, yeah, we exercise like 45 minutes instead of 30 every day because it's important to us to be able to serve. And I remember it was like before then I'd always been just kind of like snarky and sarcastic, like, oh cool, like, you know what I mean, like I don't need that, you know, like the insecure but way too proud to admit it. And so anyway, it was that. But in that moment it was cool. I've shared a bit about this on my Instagram. But it was like an out of body experience where
something touched you really, like something got into your head really well.
Yeah. The only way that I can explain it is like God took me out of myself and showed me myself, like as I was.
I love that. Okay.
And I did not like it.
Of course.
Like I didn't like showed me. It was like brutally honest, and I think I'd been prepared up to this point, but it was like excruciatingly painful to see this. And like they were all talking, but I was just like in a different world for a while. And like, I don't know if it was 30 seconds or 10 minutes that I was spaced out or like an hour. I don't know. But I came out of that and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't live my life like this. I can't be this fat, like addicted, like negative loser for my whole life. That just won't do. And so that day I got the insanity videos that some other guy on my mission had downloaded, and I started doing insanity while I was in the Philippines. So we're walking like 10, 15 miles a day. It's like 100% humidity. I'm just eating mangoes like by the barrel. And then every morning I woke up early to do insanity for like a year.
So what is insanity?
Oh, it's like P90X.
What is it?
It's basically like hell hit cardio for an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, like if you look up P90X, I guess. How old are you?
I'm 17.
Okay, yeah. So it was a big thing when I was. So I'm 20. I'll be 28 soon. But it was a big thing when I was probably like middle school, going into high school.
Okay.
It was like the thing everyone was doing. But so anyway, I did insanity, which I don't know how I did it for that long, but I made that snap. That year, in like 9 months, I think I dropped like 60 pounds. I came home, I was like 135. And I had also like personally changed just a ton. So I came home, started a music degree. I had a scholarship to like a local college out here. So I did a music degree there and kind of started getting into health. All I really knew is like I didn't want to get fat again, and I knew how to not be fat, but I didn't know anything else. So I got home 2016. And so the next 4 years was like me, like trying and failing, like dozens and dozens of different diets and programs, and like diving into things, trying to figure this out, trying to figure that out. Kind of like dealing with my own personal demons, going to school, working, whatever. The whole time I was pretty much skinny fat. Come 2019, as the years had gone on, my health just kind of deteriorated. I didn't realize it, but like my hair started falling out. I got really hypothyroid. I got some pretty bad intolerances, dairy in particular. And 2019, I got this little blister on my vocal folds. And like I've always been a singer. And I don't say this to toot my own horn, but I'm a good singer. It was kind of like at the heart of my identity for most of my life, including when I'm doing a music degree, of course. And so I couldn't sing right. I actually did like a couple auditions for The Voice where they called me in, and I moved on a few rounds, and then I didn't go further because I couldn't sing right. Like they specifically said, like this thing is the reason, and the reason that it was just because I had this little blister on my vocal fold, and that was because of my reflux, which was because of my gut issues. So I went to the doctor. He gave me some acid reducers like an idiot, and it got worse. And then I went to an ENT, ear, nose, and throat, like voice doctor, talked to him, and he gave me more intense acid reducers after the blister had gotten worse, and was like, "Hey, just do this, you'll be fine." Came back in 6 weeks, and it had ruptured. It was like 3 times the size. I could barely talk. I couldn't sing at all. So that was like, it seemed silly, but it was like absolutely devastating because that was what I was doing. Like,
That was you.
my job was teaching guitar, so I couldn't talk. I was finishing up my music degree, so I couldn't do lessons. I couldn't record my music. I was working on recording my own music. I was working on performing. I was gigging a lot. Like, it was just like, what am I supposed to do? And then COVID hit. And then I went back to this doctor after he threw me on these intense meds and made it worse. And he's like, yeah, pretty much the only thing we could do is like surgery. But even if we do that, and surgery, by the way, on your vocal folds is like, you don't come back from that. Like, they're like paper thin, extremely sensitive, which is why, like, when you hear smokers, like their dumb smoker voice, it's because they have blisters all over their vocal folds from literally burning them. So it's the same thing happening, but from the upside end from my reflux. So he basically was like, yeah, there's no way to fix it. You'll be on acid reducers for the rest of your life, so good luck, and like, you'll probably never sing again. And I was like, well, screw you, guy. Like, I was so mad, dude. Like, sitting in there, like, you just, like, my world is flipped upside down at the moment, and you're like, doesn't matter. He's like this chubby white guy, like, not that I just this like boring chubby dude that's just like that, like, he himself relies on acid reducers to get his stuff done. So anyway, that was when a little bit of the snap happened, when I was like, this can't be normal. So he kept me on acid reducers there, and I was on those, and I started fixing my voice. So I went through like vocal therapy, got that all fixed. But I was on the acid reducers for a while. While I was on those, like, all of my health issues like really came to a head beginning of 2020, and it was like I couldn't eat a normal meal without getting hugely bloated. Everything irritated my stomach. I had like acne on my forehead and like the side, which I've never struggled with. My joints, like my knees got so bad, I like I couldn't properly walk downstairs, dude. Like, it was stupid. And it was around that point I had a buddy, this kind of like a schizo guy. He still is. Good friend. I moved from like the college town to this house he had bought. I just was living in the basement, 2020, so we couldn't go anywhere. I worked remotely, so I was just home all day. And I think he introduced me to like Soul Bra and like one other dude in the holistic sphere. Yeah, so like when people crap on Soul Bra, I really don't like it, because I think he's a good dude. And like, yeah, he has $80 shorts, but like, why not? Anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, him and like Ajax, I don't know if you know Alexander Cortez, and some other dudes introduced me to.
Fuck, so it's a beautiful introduction to this space.
Yeah, and it was just the right time. Like, obviously, looking back, it was like such a gift. Like this year or two that God gave me, like at just the right time that I'd be open to it. But I remember my buddy was like, yeah, like, oh, and at some point in the past, by the way, I'd gone to a doctor and he's like, yeah, your cholesterol is really high. So I was pretty much plant-based for quite a while. And I wouldn't eat dairy. I was drinking almond milk. Like, I didn't ever do like the vegan stuff. And I didn't ever do the fake meat because that always felt pretty gay to me. But like, so I never did that. But like, I was pretty much plant-based, you know? And so anyway, I was wrecked. And I remember having a conversation with my buddy, and he was like, dude, I just like was introduced to this book about grains and how like maybe grains really like aren't the best, and like they're actually hurting us. And then I'm in Utah, so we have a lot of farms around here. He's like, I've been hearing a lot about raw milk. Like, I just bought some from this place. Like, do you want to try it? And I remember I pushed back on him because I had read so much into like the WebMD, like cholesterol is the enemy and like saturated fats and da-da-da. And I assumed that I knew because it's like I've been doing this for 4 years, even though I was sicker than I'd ever been.
Yeah.
And but eventually I was like, well, like what do I have to lose? So I tried it, and I remember the first time I shotgunned a glass of raw milk. Like, and at this point, mind you, like if I drank a glass of any milk, it was like within 15 minutes. I'm like in the bathroom in pain for like an hour. Like it was or more, and then I'm out. Like I'm not normal for the rest of the day. You know what I mean? It was like that, and I expected that to happen, but I was like, well, like I'll find out whether or not it's real. And so I just shotgunned a whole glass of this raw milk from a local place. Just smashed it all back, and I literally I planned nothing for the day. I was like, I'm probably not going to be around to talk to you guys because I'm going to be busted up. And then it never came. And
Wow.
I mean, you've probably experienced. That's part of the reason I talk so much about lactose intolerance on my page, because it's such
one
nonsense.
of the biggest myths. Yeah.
Yeah, it's your gut's messed up. And so that was the start where the doctor was like kind of a tipping point for me, and I was like, okay, maybe they don't know everything I thought they did. And then the raw milk, and then of course this was all happening around COVID, right? And this was like at the point where you realized that COVID was like a scam, you know?
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa.
You realized COVID was a scam through raw milk. Oh.
Sorry, I'm back.
There you go.
Yeah, I got a call. But this was the time when I realized, yeah, COVID's like a big scam. And so that was pretty much where it snapped. And I was like, maybe I could fix this on my own. And so then I just started deep diving into reflux, the stomach, some lactose intolerance. So I started eating real food. We got chickens. I started getting meat from a local butcher shop. I pretty aggressively cut out, low quality grains, seed oils, the classic nutritional stuff. I learned all the basics. That year I unskinny fatted myself. That was the leanest I'd ever been. Up till then, I got down to 10 or 11% body fat. I was skinny. I didn't have a ton of muscle, but I had more muscle than I'd had before, and I was lean. And I was like, this is great. I still had a lot of gut issues that I didn't realize, like SIBO and stuff. That was from the acid reducers and other issues I'd had. But so that was where it all started. And that was kind of where the journey started leading me. 2021, 2022, I became a personal trainer. I did that for a year at a gym. In 2021, that was the year where I realized I had some I had seriously overstressed my body. Not to the point of having a legitimate eating disorder, but I had not eaten enough for 4 years straight because I was afraid of getting fat again. So I got a little chunky 2021. I was never fat, but I got a little chunky again because I was like, I'm not doing a diet this whole year. I'm gonna just eat good real food and let my body recover. So I started posting some stuff 2021. Didn't quite know what I wanted to do. 2022, had a couple clients. Started posting quite a bit more. Did the personal trainer thing. I did a nutritional therapy course. It was a year-long program that was really, really great. And, just that program especially, but then other things, I just kept learning along the way, deeper diving into the nitty-gritty of the gut, the stomach, the intestines, brain, lymph, supplements, trying 1,000 different things. Started putting on a lot more muscle. Along the way, I fixed my joints. I didn't mention the knees over toes guy. I got into that 2020 as well. So I just from 2020 to really 2023 was bottom up, figuring myself out. I I think it's funny to use the word trauma. I didn't have trauma, but I had a lot of demons from my teen years, from experiences I'd had, and then things I didn't realize, specific to dating and relationships and approval seeking, that I hadn't realized how they were affecting me. And so I spent a lot of my time in those years, like really working that out. And there's, of course, always work to be done, but
Of course.
that was those 3 years were kind of like really really huge for me transformationally. And um, so I was pushing just the nutrition thing for quite a while. Left the gym. I moved to a treatment center. It's the same place I'm at now. And I had this other snap where it was like things just were not working the way I wanted them to, especially with like I was kind of trying to build a business. I was trying to build up this page, and like just nothing was happening, man. It was like I was at 400 followers for like 2 years, which is funny because like I went from like 500 to like I'm like above 7K, and I did in like a month and a half. So it's like as soon as like it was like I was on the right path, and it was just like it just moved, you know. But I had just a kind of another snapping point, where God was just kind of helped me to realize like what I was really doing, and that I didn't really care about just like being some like nutrition guy that was giving general guidance, but that I kind of had like a deeper mission that mattered more to me, and that I think I was more equipped for, which was really to kind of like to help save the boys. That sounds really trite, but I'm of the opinion that if you can save the boys, you save the generation. And for me, um, that started that started physically, and they're all intertwined. But that started with me taking care of my health, and so during that time, I had taken like a month off of social media, with the intent to go back, but I'd been going pretty hard with like zero gains and growth followers, for quite a while at that point. And I came back, and I was like, okay, this is the mission. This is what I'm doing, and it's not just going to be nutrition now. It's going to be anything and everything that I think would inspire young guys, um, to snap, to break out of like whatever mold they're in, wherever they're stuck, and like do what they need to reach their potential. Like whatever tools I can provide them to reach their potential, which is why I have like the silly name like Potential Maxers for the community I've created. And so that's kind of to present tense. And then I joined this like a coaching community for social media that helped me like really hone in on the message. And then a lot of it was just experimentation. And then, like you've probably seen, like the last few months, have had some success on Instagram. And so that's just been really cool. That's kind of like long story, but that's how I got kind of to where I am, to the message that I'm sending. And like the future is just building that community, building resources for young guys, doing one-on-one coaching, and eventually building, like a bigger brand that'll be apparel and retreats, and different stuff, like anything that I can do to really just help as many like boys and young guys to find their way, escape their demons, and kind of like reach toward their potential. So anyway, that's how I got where I am. Sorry if that was a little long-winded.
No, that's amazing, and I love this about being like the internet's big bro, as
Yeah.
your username says,
Yeah.
because I think it's something that a lot of kids my age are looking for.
Yeah.
And this mission of saving the boys, especially in the world we live in today, where we are forced to be something so small. I don't know how to
Right.
explain that. Um,
Yeah.
but talking about being, I mean, being here to help the boys, you talked about being soft when you were a little younger, that I think a lot of people my age go through. I went through that. I mean, like phase. How did you ever realize that you were soft around there, or is it now in hindsight?
Like when I was a teenager, did I realize it?
Yes.
No.
Like, did you snap out of that,
Um, it
or is
was
it
by
just through?
yeah, it was by degrees for sure. So like when I wrestled, that was the start of it. And like I had dealt with some things like with my family. So like um I like maybe like emotionally wasn't as soft as a lot of dudes. Like I've always the way that I like talk on Twitter and the way that I make content on Instagram, like it is the way that I am in real life, you know.
I love that. Yeah.
And I've kind of been that way for quite a while. But yeah, I guess the biggest change that happened, and I think it was incremental. I can't think of one snapping point
Of course.
really,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the biggest change was I was like addicted to comfort and convenience,
Okay.
at the cost of becoming, right? At the cost of growing. And
Okay.
I was smarmy and like snarky about it, you know, condescending about it. Like
Okay.
like if 18-year-old me saw 27-year-old me jumping in a freezing river, um, he'd be like, "You're the dumbest person I've ever seen. That's
Okay.
stupid."
Mm-hmm.
So that was the biggest thing, like this addiction to comfort and convenience. And now, not that I'm anti comfort and convenience, but I, I I recognize there's still a lot of ways that I'm still soft. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm just barely starting training fighting, and that's a different world. But now the difference is like, which again I talk about a fair amount, is embracing suffering,
Mm-hmm.
and not in a masochistic way, but in the understanding that it's the suffering that will allow you to grow. And so embracing like any suffering that I'm given, if it means that it pulls me closer to my potential. So I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest difference. But like also like, yeah, I was kind of just a mama's boy. Like my mom's never been crazy overbearing, but like I look at pictures of myself and it's like, bro, like I just got these like chubby, like rosy cheeks. Like
Yeah.
I'm just like noodle arms, you know, like just hadn't done a hard thing in 10 years. Like, yeah. So that's kind of what I mean by soft.
Yeah. And this notion of suffering, which is something you talk about a lot on your Instagram, God uses suffering to make us change.
Yeah.
This is huge, right?
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
expand a little bit on this, on suffering to make us change? God using suffering to make us change?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So a word
maybe,
that's
sorry, maybe your personal experience with that quote, kind of like a direct
um,
experience with it.
yeah. Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that I'm LDS. One of the words that is not just like in our scripture in the Book of Mormon, is also like in the Bible, is the word consecrate.
Okay.
That God can consecrate um, good and bad for your well being. And so the idea of consecrating is like taking something, whether it's good or bad, and using it for your good. And so, as far as God taking suffering and using it to change us, I don't think suffering is the only way that God can change us. And sometimes we induce our own suffering. But yeah, so I guess like as an example, you know, one of the most potent things is like the years of 2020 to 2021, like was a lot of struggle for me. I didn't really see my family. My grandma died, who helped raise me in 2021. Um, she was sick for a couple years, and um, and then I was going through, you know, a lot of the health stuff. And to me, it seems like you've always got two options. You either turn away from God and become bitter, and what that means is that your suffering is a waste
Mm.
and you're miserable, or you allow like the, you know, metaphorical like holes that it can tear in your heart, to be filled with you know, love and light,
I
and
love that.
and you allow God to take those experiences and consecrate them for your well-being, right? And so I think that's what it is for me. Like I think the reason that it's been kind of easy for me, honestly, the last little while to grow my page on Instagram is because I came to this spot where I like finally understood um, that I needed to be grateful for the experiences that I had had because of who they allowed me to become. Um, and so whether that's like the struggles that I've had, because like I had a lot of struggles with dating, which is funny because like it's not that girls were never into me. I just always boofed it when I was into them. Um, and because I just like I just didn't have like I just didn't have myself figured out, and
Hmm.
commitment, approval issues, whatever, right? But it's like all these different things that I'd experienced are what allowed me to be able to become the kind of person that could share a message that would resonate on a
Oh,
much larger scale. And
okay.
I couldn't have experienced that without the difficulties that I had. And there are good things in there as well that have taught me the lessons. But yeah, I just think learning. Um, there's the idea that God can consecrate our suffering, and then also just learning to be present
Mm,
and even grateful for suffering in our lives while we're in it.
okay.
Um,
Oh,
and
okay.
if we can't be grateful, then just like learning to be in it, right? Not just
Okay.
trying to get through the suffering, but
But
like,
embrace it. Just
yeah,
let it happen.
because
Okay.
you can't change it, right? So like, be in
Of
it, be
course.
there, be living, because it's just as important. It's not just something you get through; it's a part of life that you're supposed to be in and experience. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of
Fuck.
where the
That's
angle
why
I
it's
come to
there.
it. Yeah,
Love that. You talk a lot about God,
yeah,
something that's huge on your Instagram page as well. So, what is, and I ask this question like this: what is your current understanding of God? Because the more we connect to that, the more we understand more of it. Does that make sense?
yeah,
The more this image of God evolves in us and helps us be the best version of ourselves. So, what is your current understanding of God?
yeah. I mean, I think put as simply as possible, I think God is our Father,
Mm,
um, and as such, we have um, limitless divine potential to become like Him.
wow.
And yeah, I mean, at the simplest root, that's it. And I think that He sent Christ so that um, we can experience struggle and difficulty and mistakes, and so that because of Christ's life, because of His atonement, um, because of His willing to sacrifice Himself for us, that God can then consecrate our struggles and our mistakes and our suffering for our good,
Hmm.
so that we can become like Him. And so for me, and maybe this became especially profound for me because I don't have a dad. Um, that's become particularly poignant to me, is that God really is my Father, and in a very literal sense, that He's the Father of our spirits and cares deeply about us enough to give us the experiences and suffering and environments that will allow us to become who we need to be, with the end goal of becoming like Him and receiving joy.
That is fucking beautiful. Everything you've said so far is amazing, but that really hit differently, you know? Like
Thanks,
I
man.
can resonate with that. I do want to shift a little bit the uh the topic to something that you mentioned, which was porn. Something
Yeah,
also that you mention a lot on your page.
yeah,
Something a lot of kids my age, myself included, have gone through, um, this addiction, right? Because you're stuck. I mean, you talk about it, right? Why on porn being the absolute greatest evil for my generation and for anyone?
yeah,
Uh, why? Well, I'm going to give you two questions here. Why is it that it is the greatest evil? And I ask this question so maybe someone my age can listen to that and kind of click, you know?
yeah,
And why are you talking about this?
yeah. Um, yeah. Let me think to the question.
Of
So
course.
I guess I'll say like um, I'll make it as relevant to my
Hmm.
experience as I can. So for me personally, it was it was never like the kind of like I never got into like the deep stuff, which I'm incredibly grateful for, because like I know people have friends that have like struggled like deeply with that addiction. But it was a consistent issue for me, especially in my teen years and somewhat even in my 20s. And a part of that is that so I'm Christian, I'm LDS. We practice no sex before marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem there is that it like sex as a whole was like always taboo. Anything related to it was like
Okay.
always taboo to talk about in my house with my family, friends, and even like church leaders. And
Mm.
I should add that I think this is more of like a cultural problem.
Mm-hmm.
But that problem became that I started like hating my sexual appetites and trying to suppress them. And then they would come out uncontrolled,
Okay.
right? So the way that
Mm.
I like to think about it is um, there's this verse of scripture in the Book of Mormon that I really like, that whether or not you subscribe to it is extremely relevant.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
this guy teaching his son, and one of the things he says is bridle your passions that you may be filled with love. And that's incredible because it didn't say suppress your passions. It says bridle them. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand that, right? And so what I would try to do is just like suppress it. This is bad if I feel that, whatever. And you can't suppress that, especially as a 17-year-old kid or 16, 15. Like you have this whirlwind
Mm-hmm.
of testosterone and hormones and appetites, and like you can't just suppress that. Like as much as anyone tells you you want to, like you can't. And as you get older, like if you're healthy, like you can't, you know what I mean? And so instead of suppressing it, you're thinking of bridling it, right? And so I like to use the analogy of like a horse,
Mm.
right? Where like if you have like a wild stallion um, that you can't bridle, that thing could hurt a lot of people. Someone
Mm-hmm.
tries to ride it, it might kick them in the face, it might kill them, it'll stomp people out, it'll throw them off, it'll break necks, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you can train that horse and bridle it, um, then all of a sudden you have like this super engine underneath you that can take you wherever you want to go,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's the lesson that I had to learn. And so that's the most important principle, I think, is um, understanding that like sexual energy is also divine energy of who you are as a man. It's also creative energy. It's also aggressive energy, and that it's a gift from God. Um, and not something to be feared or hated or vilified. So now, talking to the opposite, that being said, the reason that it's so just absolutely evil,
Mm-hmm.
um, and as a side note, a book that I read fairly recently um, is called, oh, I might have to send it to you later.
Of
It's by
course.
this guy named Mantak Chia. It's like it's something about like it's actually like Taoist principles, but it's about bridling and using like alchemizing sexual energy. It's an
Okay.
incredible book,
Yeah, I'll add it on
absolutely
the
incredible.
description.
Okay, yeah, I'll send it to you after.
Perfect.
But um, so thinking about that energy as like being more than just some kind of like bodily fluid,
Mm-hmm.
right? But being literal divine energy within you
Mm-hmm.
that you are wasting.
That
Um,
changes the whole
yeah, every
world
time
on
you
it.
look,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so that's like the spiritual side, right? Like you are, it's literally sucking your soul from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not figurative. That's literally what's happening. You can see it in people's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, that's like, to me, that's honestly the biggest part. And the offshoots of that are like it literally rewires your neural pathways, which you've probably dug into. Like not in a figurative sense. You're literally
Mm-hmm.
rewiring your brain. Makes people more likely for having mental health disorders. makes you a lot more likely to have serious relationship commitment issues,
Mm-hmm.
issues with intimacy. And dudes in their 20s now, apparently it's common for dudes in their 20s to like have ED. Like, what? That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
And that's because of that. And then,
Wow.
of course, in extreme situations, like, it often, or at least sometimes, leads to like doing truly horrible things, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
And the basis of it is that it's it's teaching you to you basically become an animal, right? Like a dog that is like humping your leg and that you have to kick off, right? Like, you're no different from the dog,
You
honestly.
become an animal without self-control. You completely
Yeah,
lose control. Mm-hmm.
yeah, you're no different than like a dog humping a kid's leg. Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And
No, yeah.
and so, like, if you don't learn to control your sexual energy and to use it like as creative energy, right? Not just
Mm-hmm.
to suppress it, but to alchemize it, to use
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, like using it to connect to women that you're interested in, of course. But if you don't do that, then you just become an animal,
Yeah.
and you become more animal than divine, and
Yeah.
that it just negates the whole point of life, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, because you're here. Why are you here? It's to learn to become more like God. And so
Mm.
yeah, that's the kind of my big take on it.
Yeah, I love it. This has been such a huge topic in my podcast that I didn't realize was going to be a huge topic. I'm not talking about this with almost every guest,
Cool.
but because it's fucking everywhere and it's
Yeah.
fucking everyone's minds and soul.
Yeah.
You are the product. It is
Yeah. Yeah.
the absolute most evil thing currently in the world. I can say. Um, and a lot of kids my age completely lose control over it. And this leads to, like you said, being completely disconnected to themselves, completely disconnected to themselves. They're weak, they're soft, they don't know what is what. Um, they can't talk to women, can't look at
Yeah.
people in their eyes.
Right. That's a
My God.
huge one, bro. They
Yeah.
have darkness in their eyes.
Mm-hmm. So, talking a little bit on this, someone who's down bad, depressed, completely disconnected from God, but they know there's something there, right? Where can they start their journey? I don't want to ask you like a number one, number two, number three, but where can you would you recommend someone to start looking to start this journey of becoming the best versions of themselves, becoming connected to God again, to themselves, healing themselves, not becoming depressed anymore, throwing away the porn? You have anything?
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's like four things that come to mind. We'll see if I remember all of them as I'm going. But
Mm.
the first thing
Do you
is,
want to give me like the 5 words that describe them, and I'll write them down here, and I can remind you.
yeah, okay. So the first one is, I might have already forgotten. No, so the first one is spending time in nature. The second one is praying to God. Third is creating, and then fourth is controlling what you can control. Oh, looks like I
Mm.
remembered. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so the first one, spending time in nature. This is obviously getting into like, I've dove a lot into circadian health in the last year, which
Mm-hmm.
you've probably seen on my
Mm-hmm.
page. But um, like, nature is God's, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's incredibly healing in ways that I think we don't fully understand,
Mm-hmm.
and we understand a lot of them, right? So like, I think we only understand a little piece of it, but it's like, if you're spending all day moping in your room under fake light, staring at a nasty screen, you are not going to be happy or well. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what most dudes your age and even my age are doing. So like,
Mm-hmm.
first thing, bro, like, go outside. Like, seriously, go for a walk for 2 hours a day. Put your phone away. Go outside. Don't listen to music. Just go outside. And if you're afraid of being with your own thoughts, sack up and just go outside.
I
Take
love
off
that.
your shoes. Like, just spend more time outside all the time, as much as you can. Spend more time in nature. That's huge. Second is, obviously praying to God. Like, you gotta talk to God, and kind of like, for me, from the perspective that He's your father. and that he's willing to be hard on you and hold you accountable and have standards, but also that he loves you deeply
Mm.
and wants your well-being, like more than anything. So coming to it from that perspective instead of from a perspective of shame, where it's like, no, dude, like you can escape
Mhm.
whatever hell you're in, and
Mhm. You can
and that
win.
God, yeah, you can, and that's why I'm so obnoxious on my page. Like, yeah, we're winners. It's so hard to be a winner,
Yeah.
because I just won't do the doom scrolling and the black pills. It's like you need to fill your life with white pills, right? Pray to God all the time, and do it with the understanding that like God wants you to win. He really, really does.
Mhm.
And I've experienced that personally, dude. Like even like in myself when like I don't want to, um, he's like, oh, there will be people put in your life that will help you. Experiences put in your life that will help you. That will be just what you need if you ask for them.
Mm.
So that's huge. And then what was the third one I said?
Creating.
Oh, creating. So this is kind of going back to like transmuting your sexual energy. I think men and women, actually, I think that the nature of us is that we're born to create.
Mhm.
Um, for men especially, because like our sexual appetites are so intense.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
obviously, I'm not a proponent of just sleeping around with randos. Obviously, not into porn. So what that means is you're going to have a lot of extra energy that needs to be
Mhm.
used.
Okay.
And if you spend your time creating, I guarantee you will find it's a lot less hard to bridle those passions. Because, like I said earlier, sexual energy is divine energy, is creative energy. It's all the same.
Mhm.
Um, and which is the reason, like I say, like all men are autistic, right? Because you can just dive into, like, I could, if I had the time, I could literally just go and just like read articles for 8 hours
Mhm.
and it would be great,
Mhm.
or create stuff. Like sometimes I get into frenzies where I make like 8 videos,
Yeah.
and maybe that's because I'm down bad at the time. It's like I don't have any girls around me, and it's like, well, I'm going to use that energy. I might as well not waste it. Um, so that's a huge one. Like, don't just sit there, even if you don't know that people are going to see what you're creating. Like, I think what you're doing is awesome, dude. Like, there are so few guys your age, like myself included, I wasn't, that are like creating something, and you can probably attest to the fact that like it makes a big difference when you have something that you're creating, in the way that you perceive life and yourself and the world.
Yeah. That one is it's huge. I think a couple years ago where I was, a little bit down bad, really soft. Said I don't have to go through the list. But there was nothing that I looked up to doing in the day. Maybe I
Right.
just went to train, uh, did what does not have to be done as a 15-year-old kid with
Yeah.
himself. Spend time with people that don't care about me, don't care about my growth. They don't give two shit about me, and I didn't give two shits about me either. So today, waking up, having something to like look up to do, and being excited to put something somewhere is fucking
Hmm.
magical. It's
Yeah.
incredible. Whether it is just hitting a new PR in the gym,
Yeah.
or just running that extra mile because I felt that inner Goggins, or
Yeah.
recording another podcast, writing another tweet, sending another Instagram post, even though I got 2 likes. It's something. It's
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
It's magical.
Hmm. Yeah. So that's huge, dude. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you get it. And I think guys get so stuck up in their own head, like, oh, no one's gonna see, no one's gonna care. It's like maybe they don't. Maybe they don't for now. But that's not what it's about. To some
Mm-hmm.
degree. And at some point, to some degree, it has to be about you learning
Mm-hmm.
about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's huge. Yeah, creating whatever it is. For me, that's at the moment the focus is creating community and creating content and really, really pushing to grow it. And then I'm also a musician, and so when I have a little more time, then I'll move a little more of my time back into making a little more music. But that's a huge one. And then the last thing is controlling what you can control,
Mm-hmm.
which really is, um, the
Fuck, this one
biggest
is
thing.
really huge.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much here, but this is the reason that I'm so, uh, that I harp so much on getting your health in order. And and really it's the reason that health was so foundationally perspective shifting for me, because one of the only things that you can change in yourself is for instance, I this week, like the last month, I've been training like barbell military press,
Okay.
and when I started it, I could do like 8 reps and with like 95, which isn't very much. I need to get up to 135, but what that's a side point. I'll be there by the end of this year. But anyway, I could do like 8 reps and then like 6 reps and like 5 reps. And this last week I did 3 sets of 10 reps. And like on the last the 10th rep of the 3rd set, I wanted to die. I wanted to crap my pants. You know what I mean? But I finished that and I was like, "Oh wow, I actually made myself stronger." And like
Mm-hmm. Okay.
you can look in the mirror and be like, "Wow, like my shoulders are bigger than they were before."
Yeah.
Right? And that's so incredibly empowering, especially as a man, because you realize you have the power to change yourself.
Mm.
And so that's the biggest thing, dude. It's like you got to get in the gym, you got to get your health right, you got to unfat yourself, and you got to like
You
fix
got
your
a
health.
cold plunge in your nearest lake.
Yeah, you got to fix your health, and you got to do it in ways that at least to start, where the results can be very visible. Like if you're chubby, you need to immediately unchubbify yourself. Like that
Mm.
needs to be your first priority, because that'll be the first thing that'll prove to yourself that you can.
Oh,
And
okay.
so it's like, right, like right now, I'm working on my Tyson physique. Like by the end of this year, I'll probably look a lot closer to Mike Tyson. I'm not
What
as big as I want to be.
are you really training neck?
I'm training everything. I'm just trying to become a yak.
Yeah. Love it.
But yeah, neck training's in there too.
That's
But
super huge for that physique.
yeah, he's a freak. But yeah, so that's a huge one where it's like control what you can control and change it. And the more you control the things that you can control, whether that's your schedule, whether that's your health, your fitness, like your fat, whatever, the more you can control those things, every time you have a win, even if it's a little win, it becomes just like another piece of the block, of like your tower of confidence
Mm.
in your own ability to be able to change your life. And the more confident you feel in your ability to change the life, the less depressed you're going to be, because the less hopeless you are. And I
Mm-hmm.
think depression is really just hopelessness and despair, right? Of
Okay.
course, there's physiological
Mm-hmm.
aspects to it too, but I think at the heart that's what it is. So if instead of feeling hopeless, you feel hopeful and confident in your ability to change, then you'll never quit,
Mm.
right? And so yeah, for me, those are the big ones that people could start with.
Fuck yeah. So Terrell, for my last question,
Yeah.
what brings you most joy in life?
Mm. I think the two things that bring me the most joy are connecting with people that I love and creating things that bring light to people's lives and help people to be better, inspire people to be better, I should say.
Inspire people to be better. I love that. I love that. Terrell, thank you so much for making this happen. And we got under the hour mark.
Dude, we did. Yeah. Thanks for being flexible. Sorry, my schedule's been crazy. I
Dude,
got like,
no worries. We made it happen.
yeah, dude. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
But
Thank you,
yeah, I
Terrell.
appreciate it, dude. And this is sick, man. I really I think what you're doing is sick. Just
Appreciate it.
keep grinding.
Thank you.
You're gonna be way beyond where I am and my buddies are by the time you're my age. So like, just keep grinding, dude. I love it.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Give